Hey YouTube! Welcome back to my channel. My name's Lian, and today I have an exciting video for you. This past week I got to build a PC for my boyfriend's brother. For context, he's a videographer, and every time he tried to edit and render a 4K video, his pre-built PC would blue screen on him. So I offered to build him a new one. And all he had to do was pay for the parts. I've been dreaming of building a PC for myself or for someone else ever since I got to tear one down and build it back up when I was taking my IT certification classes, so I was really excited to do this. This is by no means a tutorial, and I apologize now for the angles you'll see in the video. This was more for documenting the process more than anything. But anyway, let's get right into the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more. And you can also follow me on all my other socials that'll be linked in the description. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one. Alright y'all, so here I am opening the motherboard for the very first time. This was kind of a weird thing because one, I wasn't expecting it to be sticky. Two, I wasn't expecting it to be pointy on the back, but that's because of all the soldered pieces. By the way, if you're interested in this build and the parts I picked, the PC part picker will be in the description. And here I am showing off the M.2s, screws, because it comes with a couple, and then taking out other stuff. Alright, so I was so scared to do this part because the CPU is so fragile and it's so expensive. It's the Intel Core i7 127K. So here I am looking at the pins, making sure everything's all good. I know the motherboard is new, but it came from Amazon, so you never know. And then here's me flipping the cover back over to try to see where the error was because I could not find it. So that was a process. Literally flipping open and closing the cover over and over again, trying to find where the error was because it wasn't where the pins were and I couldn't see it on the cover. And then I flipped it over to make sure the pieces on the back were also good. It's a brand new Intel CPU that I bought off of Amazon, but you will literally just never know. So I was just being extra cautious. Any of the PC part manuals are not useful for the simple fact that it has just pictures of nothing. So, yeah. I don't know why I showed it off twice. Get it together. when I finally figured out where the arrow was on the motherboard, and I'm finally like confidently placing the CPU and making sure it's in there. And then if y'all saw my face at the noise it made, I was so scared. I wanted to open it, but I was like, I'm sure it's fine, not a big deal. It was in there, it was snug, and it was good. And it was actually, so here's the RAM that I picked out. This actually, I installed them on his previous build, and then we just transferred them over to this one. Here's a little peel, little ASMR for the, if y'all are into that. And then I ended up putting the first DIMM in the wrong way. Almost, and I put it in all the way, but it was facing the wrong way. So we're gonna clip that in. Nice and snug. Make sure it's in there well. It's seated nicely. Here's the next stick of RAM, another peel for you. Very satisfying if I can get it off. Beautiful. Make sure that's seated in well once it's clipped in. I don't double check this one as much as I did the first one, but here's the NVMe M.2 SSD that we picked out from Samsung. Pretty standard one, it's a pretty popular one, so that's why we went with it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew the heatsink from the board. This is why they give you extra ones in case you lose these, because these are pretty small screws. Luckily I had a magnetic mat that I stuck them to. All the screws I ended up sticking to this mat because it was magnetic, and it was just easy to do that. I've done this a few times already. I have an SSD in my, I said a few times, I've only done this once, and I have an SSD in my, that I installed in my PS5. So this was probably the easiest part of the whole build, was doing this. Making sure it was good. I got a little confused because there was a part in the middle of where the stick sits on, and I thought that's where I had to screw it in, but I didn't. But you don't see that, cut it out. Here's another nice peel of me taking off that protective layer over the heatsink. Put that on, make sure it's aligned and don't mess up the, I didn't check how sticky it was. I don't know if it is at all. Make sure it's snug on top of the SSD, and then grabbed the screws and screwed it all back in again. So the next PC part that I picked out was the NZXT Kraken Z63 AIO cooler. To my understanding, AIOs are slightly better at cooling CPUs than air coolers, but it's just a preference, and I went with what was in my budget, and I figured this would be a good option. And I wanted to give a try at setting up an AIO, because it can be kind of, I guess, daunting, and it was definitely my most difficult part of the entire build, and you'll see that later in the video when I'm putting the cooler into the case. Also, the manual inside of this thing was, out of all of the manuals I looked at this day, it was by far the worst manual, because it was pictures that led into more pictures, but like no arrows of what you're supposed to do, and then the writing was really small and like worded weirdly, so it was just, it's a hot mess. One thing I found out about the AIO is that it has pre-applied thermal paste, which was awesome. I had some that I had bought, but I was happy to find out that it already had it pre-applied. So this bag contains the brackets that you'll need to install on your motherboard, and I did it. When I did that, you'll see it later, it kind of came out messed up. Those are the cords. I started to open the bag with the brackets, and then I decided I was going to go ahead and grab the AIO out of its box to start unwrapping it. And it was pretty basic. It's just the radiator, and then you have your tubes into the pump. You know, aesthetically pleasing. I was struggling apparently with the bag, trying to get it off. Alright, so we've switched angles. Now I'm putting the shield for the motherboard onto the back of the PC. And then I'm taking out the cords that are there for the front panel and removing that box from the hard drive bracket. I think that's what they called it. And in here is more cable management for the case itself from Corsair. The case will be in the description below, but this is a pretty popular case, so most people know it. And I didn't know when I bought this case that it came with 2 fans already. So, and I dropped one of the Velcro straps for the cable management. Yeah, so that box had zip ties and some more screws for the... Now is time where I start putting all of the parts into the PC. So here I am installing the motherboard into the case for the first time. Be aware that I did not put the bracket on for the AIO prior to this, so this was pretty interesting to do after the motherboard was in, but you'll see that later. And you can also see that I'm trying to figure out where the screw holes are, and I guess I could try to see it from looking at it on the side, but I wasn't 100% sure. But we made it work and I figured it out, so that's honestly all that matters. decided I was gonna leave in because this is what I had to deal with while I was filming this part, especially like standing up at the desk, and you'll see it in a second, where I back up into the cords and bang boom, phone's on the floor, and that ring light sits on the worst tripod ever. It's so lightweight and it literally just flops everywhere. At one point this tripod was on my desk, and if you just ever so slightly moved against the table, it would freak out. So yeah, it was annoying. Back up and squared away here. Now I'm bringing the AIO in to screw the fans onto it. For some reason I felt enjoyment doing this. There's the bracket that is still not on the CPU. Again, my fault. I know now for the future it's okay to flip the motherboard over once everything else is in, like the CPU, the M.2, and the DIMMs. Once they're on, you can flip the motherboard over and insert the bracket and then screw on the standoffs. I know that now, so I'll be doing that definitely in the future, the next time I build the PC. So here the giant fans are going on the rad. I did it in across from each other. I screwed them in across from each other because that's how I've learned to do it, so it can equalize pressure on all the sides. This is how I do it. People do it differently. As long as you screw the ones that are across from each other and don't go like corner to corner. That's how I learned it from YouTube and when I was taking my classes. Big shout out to all the amazing creators on YouTube who have made their channels a place of encouragement to build your own PCs, and I'm gonna drop their channels in the description as well, because they really have instilled in me and have helped me gain the confidence to have been able to build such an awesome PC like this. So I will link all the amazing creators here on YouTube who have helped out a lot in this journey of mine and have helped pique my interest in PC building that I plan to take with me in the future, because I have found a new hobby of mine that I want to pursue, which is building PCs. So if y'all want to give me a budget and I can spec it out for you, you want me to build you a PC, I'm all for it. This is just something that I've already grown to love immensely, and I want to continue to learn in this amazing space as a woman in tech, and I'm just gonna throw that in there. So here I am installing the AIO onto the case. Not gonna lie, this took me about 4 or 5 times to get it right, because I initially put it on and then I had to take it off for something else, and then it was just putting on, taking off, and it got really tiring. So yeah, at the end I had to take it off one more time because I didn't realize that the power for the CPU goes at the top of the motherboard, and I was so upset. But I cut that part out so you couldn't see it. But yeah, it was very annoying to have taken it off and put it on so many times. All I can say is that it was definitely a moment of learning, so be sure to double check where your connections are going to be on your motherboard before you put it in the case, and make sure you get all your connections ready to go. because something could be in the way, and it can get very aggravating at times, especially like I said, if you have to take off and put back on the AIO like 4 times. So just be sure to check what you're doing. Alright, so this is me turning the case around so we can check the cables for the fans, as well as put the back plate for the AIO on the motherboard. Again, a learning moment here. Do this while the motherboard is out of the case. It'll be a lot easier than trying to have to screw in the standoffs for the AIO outside the case, I promise. And then this is just me trying to screw in the AIOs. This took a while for some reason. Just a lot of just screwing in, making sure everything's all good. I apologize now if you can hear my fans for my PC going in the background. If the mic is picking that up, I'm not sure. I won't know until post. The fans have been set to high, and they've always been at high since I got the PC. Mind you, the PC I bought from another YouTuber. Shout out J Miles for hooking me up with his PC. But yeah, it's if you hear it, it's just know the fan curve's really high, but it's okay. If it makes I don't care about the sound of it, as long as I have a cooled PC. And 9 times out of 10, I'm in this room playing with my headphones on and with my friends, so I don't hear it. So now we're at the point where I'm attempting to install the AIO, and you'll see that the orientation of this is probably not the best, but the case was kind of awkward and there wasn't a whole lot of space at the top. And then the motherboard also had like pieces of hardware, I guess, that just make it hard to put the AIO on. Part of me wishes I went with like an air cooler. I'm happy I attempted this and it works. You'll see it. The screen on the pump is upside down, and I don't fix that until this PC is at my boyfriend's house. So yeah, just know I did fix it, and that the image on the screen is not upside down. It is up right now. So now I'm just tightening down the AIO to the CPU, and then I had to actually unplug both the cords that are connected to the pump, because one of the screws wasn't sitting. It just kind of sat awkwardly on the CPU, so I had to unscrew it and reposition it a little to get it to the right spot. I hadn't realized after I put on all the other screws that it was slightly off. So I didn't take it completely off the CPU because it had pre-applied thermal paste and I didn't want to mess it up too bad. So I don't completely take the pump off. I just remove the screws and realign it a little because it's like ever so slightly off and I couldn't get a screw in. Here I am making sure that the pump is secured to the motherboard and isn't moving around like it was before, and this is when I start routing the cables to the back of the case, and from there you'll see the slight cable management situation we got going on. You'll see later when I put in the power supply that it got kind of crazy, and I was trying to keep it as clean as possible, but I was also really tired and a lot of the cables you weren't gonna really see from the front, so I kind of tucked everything behind the power supply in the basement of the case and I closed it, and that was it. By this point of the build, it was pretty late into the night and I had to work the next day. So I got pretty tired, and normally I would have shown off the fans and what they were, like I did the power supply just now, but it must have slipped my mind. Also, I was aggravated because I'm pretty sure I dropped my tripod again, so my phone was on the floor again. So I was pretty annoyed by that at this point. But these were the fans that are on the front of the case are Lian Li's Infinities. I think they're V2, if I remember correctly. Like I mentioned earlier, everything will be in the description below in the PC part picker page. I forgot that I needed to put the cable on the fans before the fans went in the case, and I don't know how I forgot that, but I did. So you'll see that I actually unscrew and take the fans out again to put the cable on. The cool thing about this fan set, and that I would do again if I were to build a PC for myself, is I would definitely get these fans. These fans they can be linked together by just these little plastic pieces on the fans. There's an infinity mirror on them, on the sides and in the back, but you won't see if the fans are turned in to the case. If they were facing out, you would see them, but they were really cool, and they are daisy chained through connections in the fan. So it was really cool, and I was slightly stressing out about this because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to daisy chain these. A lot of reading of manuals was going to happen, but thankfully I didn't have to do that. So I was very happy about that. At this point, the connection for the fans is connected to the top fan, and the cable is in the back of the case now. And what you see, I am messing with the controller for the Lian Li fans, and that controller was the absolute biggest pain in my ass because ever so slight tug, there's a magnet on it to stick to the case, and you can see that I'm peeling it off. But this was the most sensitive thing ever, and it was really annoying because even like the slightest tug on, you could be working in the front of the case, and in the back you could hear it start falling. So it was really aggravating, and I was extremely aggravated with it. But you know, you gotta work with what you have, and next time I know. So you can see also that the cables aren't crazy at this point, but I was slightly overwhelmed by them and how janky they look. Now you can see that I'm putting in the PSU, and you can see the cords that are coming off of it. I had to take off 3 of them and put on 1 because I didn't know that you didn't need all of them at the time. I was like, if I need to add more, I will, but I also didn't have that many components. So I'm happy that it was a non-modular PSU, but for next time, I know that the non-modular route is probably the best, and I don't need all the cables. But I almost had each slot filled until I was like, wait, let me just put it in, see what I need, take out what I don't, and if I need to add anything, then I will. I think the PSU is the one thing I didn't have to change out multiple times. Unscrew and screw back on, thankfully.
Let's get it.
After I got the power supply all screwed in and situated at the bottom of the case, I decided that now, at this point, was the time I was going to put the graphics card in. This graphic card is beautiful. I love how it looks. It's just so simple, but it's super, super, super clean, and I just love it. At this point, I didn't have the connector from the power supply for the graphics card in yet. I was like, oh, I can just use this one. And there was like 4 cables that looked like the one that goes to the graphics card until I actually like looked at the connectors and I was like, oh, let me not plug this in. I think it was like an extra one for something. I don't know. At this point, like I said, I was tired and I wasn't really 100% all there to what I was doing, so I probably should have stopped a long time ago, but I had it. This last part's a bit rushed. I had to cut out a lot, but this is the power cord for the power supply. The PC powered on, which is awesome, and then here's a semi-satisfying peel of the sticker that's on the pump. As you can see, it's upside down like I mentioned. So that was awesome. It was great. Fuck yes. And it posted here and I got super excited and it was amazing. So I thank my boyfriend's brother for letting me do this. This was such an amazing opportunity and I just want to keep doing this as long as I can. And yeah. Alright. I'm out.